Well, hi again. Greetings. So far in each of my devotions, I have touched on the subject of love. Last week I said Paul referred to it as the more excellent way. This week I want to take a closer look at this more excellent way. So let's examine what I refer to as the love chapter in the New Testament, or what some people remember as the verses used in weddings. Yes, you guessed it, chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians. Most will remember these verses being read at weddings, and so we have come to associate them with husband and wife. But Paul actually meant this chapter to be the more excellent way of living for every believer. Here he's trying to bring the Corinthians closer together, like a united family. He starts out by emphasizing that we gain nothing without love. It doesn't matter how bright we are, how sweet or eloquent we can talk, how much or how strong our faith have developed, how many possessions we have. I was actually about to say how rich we are, but that would paint the wrong picture. Or how much we give away. Without love, these mean little to God. You ever receive something from someone, but you knew that that person gave you just for show? How did you feel? How much did you really treasure that gift? Or, on the other hand, did you ever give somebody something just for show? Well, you can answer. I wouldn't hear. In verse 4, Paul gets into the meat of the matter. Love is patient and kind. Your Bible may say suffers long or long suffering, but that doesn't mean that we have to suffer hardship. It means we ought to be able to take a lot before we blow up, before we get angry and let off that steam. Remember when you first fell in love with that special partner, how you held back a lot before you got angry with the person because you didn't want to upset the relationship before it blossomed? You tried not to let the little things upset you. The Old Testament describes God as slow to anger. And that's how he's calling on us to be, slow to anger. Then Paul says, love is kind. And we all know how to be kind. We show kindness many times, but mostly to our family and to our friends, or to people we want to impress, like our bosses, or perhaps like that special love mate. What we are called to be is kind all the time. Some translations refer to it with words like courteous or gentle. The idea is that we are always looking out for the good of the other person, especially in those tense moments when anger may creep in. So, whether we are married or single, whether we are male or female, as long as we are believers, we ought to be patient and kind. In the same verse 4, he talks about qualities that cannot exist with love. Things like jealousy, envy, pride. These things don't exist when there's genuine love. And they should not exist among believers because believers have genuine love. If you're producing this love, then it's impossible to be jealous or envious. How can you give love that is looking after the happiness of a person and be jealous or envious of that same person at the same time? Remember, we are loving our neighbors as our own selves. If you find yourself starting to get jealous or envious, it means you have to focus on the patience and the kindness in the love you have. Pride is another quality that gets in our way of love. Pride is mostly about self. That's why in most cases we don't see it. The King James Version says, "Love vaunteth not itself," is not puffed up. When we do whatever good deeds we do, it's because the love that God gave us, we don't have to boast or puff up ourselves. It goes on to say, "Love bears all things." The ERV renders verse 7, "Love never gives up on people. It never stops trusting, never loses hope, never quits." So when we are living with love and expressing that love that God gave us, we don't give up on each other. Rather, we look out for each other, or rather, we look after each other. The Amplified Version says, "Love bears up under anything and everything that comes, is ever ready to believe the best of every person. Its hopes are fadeless and under all circumstances, and it endures everything without weakening." We also said love is the greatest virtue, not because it endures the longest, lasting through eternity, but because it unites us together, and it also unites us to God. This makes a more important link in making us holy. There's one word that is encompassed in love, which is not directly expressed in the Corinthians passage, but it is understood in the overall picture of how we are expected to live. That is, forgive. Peter puts it this way in 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 8. "Above all things, have intense and unfailing love for one another. For love covers a multitude of sins," that is, forgives and disregards the offenses of others. He's simply saying here that the love we have makes us kind to the imperfections of others and leads us to overlook their faults. So if we are living with God's love, there's no place for holding grudges, holding on to past hurts, keeping people in mind for something they did in the past. No. Didn't we expect God to forgive us and wipe our slates clean? Well, we ought to do the same. Tell me something, can you imagine a different world where everybody loves everybody? Well, you just imagine what I believe heaven will be like. In discipleship class, we teach that this life is preparation for eternity. It's important that we practice right living down here if we expect to get it right in eternity. So I close with this quotation from Romans chapter 12 and verse 10. King James says, "Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another." Passion Translation says, "Be devoted to tenderly loving your fellow believers as members of one family. Try to outdo yourselves in respect and honor of one another." So this week, let's share more love. At home, at work, at play, on the streets, in the supermarket, in the store, wherever you are. Let's change the world by showing what believers are known for, that unselfish love. Well, God bless you and your efforts to continue to please Him. Enjoy.